we're going to start by you explaining why you do not want your face to be revealed.
It would be easier for me to talk more freely, not having or knowing that people are directly looking at me, per se. Can we start over?
No, that's fine. And what does that come from? Like, why do you have those feelings that you don't want people to be looking at you? What causes that?
Extreme anxiety, complex PTSD that I'm on disability for. When you're held captive for many years, being around people tends to make you a lot more timid, and takes a lot of power away. And I feel like my voice wouldn't be used as well if I knew people were just looking directly at me.
And when you say held captive, what do you mean by that?
My ex-husband, who is a preacher's son, held me and my kids captive in a house for 11 years. They were different houses. He'd move us around when people would kind of get nosy or start figuring things out. And it was just me and my 3 kids together every day. No interaction with other people or public, just him and the family who aided and abetted it.
And when you say you were held hostage, you literally were not allowed to leave the house.
No, me or the children. I homeschooled them. We did not see doctors regularly. The kids were not vaccinated. We did not have regular medical care or like their education. I did the best I could with what Baptist Christian curriculum I was allowed to use. But yeah, it was just me and them every day, all day.
And the district attorney's office in Larimer County prosecuted. What happened with that case?
Out of the 13 original charges, he did a plea bargain, pled guilty to second-degree attempted murder with sexual factual basis of rape and child abuse charges. Got a sentence of 30 years.
So he's in the Department of Corrections as we speak?
Yes.
How long has it been since you actually had any interaction with him or have heard from him or about him?
Recently, until recently, with the wrongdoing of CPS and DHS, it had been 8 years, almost 8 years.
And during those 8 years, you and your children have worked very hard on healing, moving forward, reclaiming some of your lives.
By far, we're not the same people we were 8, 7, 5, 3 years ago. A month ago, though, about a month or 2 ago, that all changed. We had progressed very far, gotten a voice back, gotten a lot of, self-respect and pride and just things any normal human should have in life. We were managing a lot of our triggers, and we grew as individuals and as a family and became a lot stronger individuals, and again together as a unit. We call ourselves a unit, until CPS and DHS became very detrimental to us and took a lot of that away.
So in 8 years of progress that you and your children made, CPS, DHS immediately took that from you?
Immediately, I like your word. Immediately, yes. Within very few actions, they did, yes.
Who was the main person who stripped you of that progress and healing?
I mean, 3, 4 names come directly to my head.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if there's one. The hardest one, the one that shocked me the most, who I once thought of very highly of, would be Hava Sims, I believe, is her last name. And then there's Lynn, and Courtney and Marissa.
So those 4 women, well, Hava for sure knew your story.
Yes.
She had all the facts about the case against him. And even though she had all those facts, CPS, and I'll call them CPS because that's what most people across the United States can relate to, CPS contacted and gave him back all the power he once had over you.
Yes. Technically, Hava being Department of Human Services and then the sister entity of CPS, she wasn't the direct one. Courtney is the exact person who made contact and reached out to our abusers with the prior backing of Lynn and Marissa, who weren't even supposed to be on my case anymore due to a biasness and judgment that their manager, Jonathan, or supervisor, Jonathan, had already discussed with me and removed them and gave us Courtney, who's no better in what action she made, yeah.
Do you remember one of the first things Courtney said when she came into your home and sat with you? Do you remember what she said about her badge?
That it makes people nervous?
Yeah, so what does she do with her badge that makes people nervous? Do you remember what she said she does with it?
She takes it off?
She puts it in her pocket.
Yeah.
But do you remember she actually said, I know my badge makes you nervous, so I put it in my pocket.
Yeah.
So even though she knows it makes people nervous, she had to make sure that you knew she had a badge.
Yeah, and even that is, I feel, personal, kind of, not an attack, but one of their games, especially with me personally, being that all along the way in different scenarios, I've learned that they have notes. They take notes on people. They, as in any entity of government, they know that I have authority figure issues, and I have specifically mentioned time and time again, anybody with a name badge frightens me. So I felt that was very personal.
So when you say you have authority figure issues, is that based on the fact that you were held captive?
Yeah, by preachers, or preacher and his family, people that are thought to be, higher members of society. And then along with that came detectives that I that did wrongful doings to myself. Doctors who would dismiss me because of what we now know as my PTSD and things like that, and misdiagnosing extreme illnesses and things. It comes from a lot of people that are put in place to help us and keep safe, or whatever their job title is meant for, but using that power, or I should say abusing that power.
Mm-hmm. We're going to do a series of interviews with you, so we have a lot to cover. And I want to ask you about something when we first met. And why do you want people to know your story?
Because like with most things, I can't change, we can't change, nobody can change what has happened to us. But if it can help somebody else, I feel like people should be aware of what these entities are doing to us and individuals and families and homes. If I could ease one other family's mind, or another person doesn't have to go through as much, or at least be aware and know what to watch for, or that they're not alone, is why I want people to hear my story.
You told me one thing during one of our first meetings, and that was basically that you'd done a lot of therapy, but you said something that I'll probably never forget, and that is, what happens to the therapist when you start to tell them what has happened to you?
I mean, the first therapist cried more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the therapist, they know you're telling the truth because you have the facts. You can prove it. It's all in court records, it's court documents. So when they actually hear you tell the story, it messes them up.
Yeah, a lot of times it's, there's no way this happened, or like you said, it's not believable. But what's crazy is about the truth and the facts is you can go back to them. And they're there to reference, or, you know, lies and things would ripple and trickle and you'd have to cover up and keep straight, but there's black and white.
Police records, court records, judges saying things.
Yeah.
So you don't hate the system, just so people are clear. You don't hate all attorneys, you don't hate all cops, you don't hate all...
I feel there's a few who have been amazing. There's several who have been life-changing. There's some who, even after what I've been through, you'd think I would be a feminist, and I'm not. Or you'd think I would be totally anti-different parts of the government, when there's some that make me actually believe there is a higher power out there, make me have some hope in government or different things, just as much as I've been very turned off by and in despair about. There's several that I wish others would be more like.
I always think about the prosecuting attorney who actually held accountable. Do you want to talk about her?
She is forever my hero. Kara Boxberger is one of the most amazing humans that I've ever met. And not just in my case, not just because, oh, she put my ex-husband away, because of her actions since, you know, I couldn't speak on before because I didn't know her before then, but I have watched her become an amazing judge. Even with my own child who found himself in trouble, she was very fair and just to every family that went up there. She had a bit of humanity I don't see in many people. She had a care and a concern that she wanted the best for these lives. And I just thought she always held herself in a light that you don't see with people and judges. Yeah, she's in my family a very significant person. Yeah.
You mentioned a few minutes ago about a detective that you were supposed to be able to trust. We're not going to say his name yet. We're still working on the research in that case. But I do want people to understand that this is a Loveland Police Department detective that we're going to talk about in much more detail. And you actually filed a report against him. We're not finished with that case, but what happened recently with Heather Moore from Loveland Police Department? What did she say about your case against this detective?
That there was no case.
Well, and this has a lot to do with the national policies and laws about statute of limitations on sex assault.
We were past the 5-year statute of limitations.
They didn't. So Heather Moore and Loveland Police Department didn't say it didn't happen. They just said it was too late.
Exactly. And through all of this, I had never even thought about it that way until you just said that. Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that detective in future episodes, but I just want to kind of lay the foundation for people to understand that it wasn't just your ex-husband, it wasn't just a detective from Loveland Police Department. It's a pattern in your life, and when people learn more about the pattern in your life, they're going to again look at you first and say, well, it must be something she's doing, which is another thing that people do to victims of abuse, right? It has to be her fault, because that's what we do in the United States. We blame the victim. So we're also going to talk about a case that was just resolved, again in Larimer County, against another person who seriously injured you. And what happened in that case?
This individual who, yeah, multiple crimes against me, was just found guilty by a jury trial. of several of the felonies. And
I want people to understand that your courage to talk, your courage to actually explain these painful things that have happened to you, they're real. There are medical records, court records, police records. You're telling the truth. And still, because of the belief systems in the United States, people are going to doubt you. But we're going to make it impossible for them to question what you're saying because we have the records, we have the proof.
yeah, I've been, in so many ways, I was misdiagnosed with lupus for the fact that I must just be on drugs because the sores that I had and the anxiety and the shaking that I had, I came off to them just as some drug user and was dismissed and dismissed. For 2 years, I could have already been working on and managing a pretty serious illness. They, you know, would even call it, when I'd go to the hospital for certain things, they'd call in the psych ward. Again, they're doctors, they have name badges, so I'm obviously going to be nervous, and nobody's going to believe me, right? After being with the preacher's son, nobody believed me for many years that he would do these things until it got too late. Then they realized it. Until I got really sick in certain conditions, then they finally took a look at other things. You know, I've been, in this last case, an animal was harmed by the other party to make it look like I had an unsafe place and that I was a different character of a person to discredit me, when x-rays and hospital records and just so much real facts.
Well, your house is filled with animals.
Yeah.
Cats, dogs. You take care of other people's dogs because they trust you with them. And so Fort Collins Police Services actually did an investigation on the dog that died here. And what they found that...
Well, it didn't die here.
Good clarification. Where did it die?
In the Humane Society. They said it technically, they don't know where this animal got sick from.
The Fort Collins Police didn't open an investigation into you because there was no evidence that you were involved in this dog's death.
Exactly. There was no evidence in the fact that law enforcement the next day even called to apologize that they even entertained coming out here. Hava, who backed me on all of this, she apologized and made sure that the supervisor of CPS and the caseworker, Lynn and Marissa, also contacted me to let me know that it was dismissed and I was no longer looked at.
But how did that happen that we met?
I had a friend who would show me your videos, share your videos with me, who's very passionate about what you do. And in those, after several of them, I'd get a little emotional or agitated, and not a bad way, but my friend could see there was something, and amongst us discussing some of my past, realized that there were situations I had been through that you were speaking on and similar to those. And so my friend contacted you, and we were surprised how fast you responded and scheduled a time to meet with us. And you met with us, and since then you've been very diligent in helping us. But yeah.
Do you feel any pressure at all from me to do these videos?
No, God, no. If I could see, my father who passed away said if I ever needed anything, he'd tell any friend or potential dating partner anything. Brittany just needs patience and understanding, or patience and acceptance. And you have been the exact T of what that means. Not very many people understand or can relate to things, and no, I don't feel any at all. I feel comfort and that's huge when I literally do everything in life now out of having some kind of comfort in it. So, no, not at all.
Have you had attorneys question my involvement in your life?
Yeah, and to me, when that happens, first of all, it's, excuse me, why would you question, like, my main support or somebody who is there out of nothing but good for me and my family? Second of all, it makes me question, well, what do you have to hide? What is it you don't want us to find out about you? Because that's just odd. Why somebody would question a support system in the first place, or who just has good intentions with these people.
Is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up this first introduction?
I think just, it's been a long time coming. I've wanted to for a long time. We've talked about things way before we ever met you, and how this, all came about, and having the opportunity and everything. It's kind of surreal. And like I said, I can't change nothing for us. And they say I have like survivor's guilt, survivor's remorse. And a lot of times, not in a suicidal manner, why am I still here? Why did I survive? Type things. But sometimes you wonder, what was it all for? New York had contacted us after my ex-husband's sentencing was over and asked to do a story on us. And I said, you don't want this story. Because back then it would be, is the struggle worth it? It was hard after leaving too. And we talked about it then, and people would always tell me, oh, you should, write a story, or you should do this or that. And I always said, no, what is it good for? What does it matter? And I think a lot of things leading up, it was to this, if this is why maybe I'm still here, is because a lot of times when you're at 4 a.m. in the morning wondering if you're crazy, I wish somebody would have told me I'm not crazy, or that this is real. Or some people like putting names and having a label for things, and some don't. But if I could just tell them that there's a name for that, or, they're not alone. Because a lot of times I felt that way. So if I could help or ease or give somebody some justification, even though the first thing in a safe house, they tell you, stop justifying everything. If I could help do that for them so that they don't have to, then that's why I'm here and sharing my story.